All right, folks, grab your popcorn, adjust your seatbelts, and maybe tighten your wig if you're wearing one, because Malawi's political scene just dropped a storyline spicy enough to steam up your glasses. President Lazarus Chakwera has fired off remarks so bold, so pointed, and so metaphorically roasted that even his critics had to pause mid-complaint just to decode the heat. Today, we're breaking down the drama behind Chakwera, wadya, banzi, kuchoka, Chithyola, kwachema ku Kongelesi, akwiya, naye. This is political firefight with premium seasoning. Let's roll. Chakwera didn't stroll into this political moment casually. He walked in with the confidence of a man who already knows everyone in the room has been waiting to hear what he'll say next. The gathering wasn't your regular sit-down political chat. Nah, this felt more like a crossroads moment where allies, critics, and those pretending not to care all leaned forward at the same time. The energy was charged, the air was thick, and Chakwera came in swinging with words that were equal parts strategy, frustration, and showmanship. And trust me, this was only the opening shot. And if you thought the atmosphere was loaded already, wait till you hear the line that lit the whole room up like a faulty transformer. This expression is not your everyday political critique. It's a cultural missile. Wadya banzi kuchoka Chithyola roughly paints the picture of someone who enjoyed comfort, protection, or privilege, and then turned around acting loud, rebellious, or ungrateful. Chakwera didn't toss this metaphor lightly. He aimed it like a dart at figures he believes benefited under his umbrella, only to step out and start throwing public tantrums. It's sarcastic, it's spicy, and it carries the vibe of, look who's talking now. It was both shade and strategy in a single line. But buckle up, because the banana metaphor wasn't even the loudest punch he threw. Here's where Chakwera turned the sarcasm dial to maximum. When he said his critics were cheeming to Congress, he essentially accused them of running off to higher authorities or public platforms to cry for attention. This wasn't just calling them complainers, it was accusing them of political theaters. He painted them as people who grab a megaphone not for truth, but for sympathy. And in political communication, framing someone as a whining opportunist is a heavy blow. It was classic, don't act tough in public when you needed my shelter earlier, energy. And if the whining accusation wasn't fire enough, wait until we bring Baba into the story. When Chakwera dropped the phrase akwiya, naye, he wasn't just gossiping. He was strategically signaling that heavyweights, elders, insiders, and respected voices were fed up with the behavior of certain political actors. Invoking Baba culturally adds weight. It suggests moral disappointment, not just political irritation. It subtly moves the issue from politics to values, from disagreement to disrespect. The message? It's not just me calling this out. Important people who matter are also tired of this nonsense. That line alone shook tables, chairs, and probably a few political safaris. But that wasn't just rhetorical fireworks. It carried real consequences behind the flair. It's easy to hear dramatic political lines and treat them like mere entertainment. But Chakwera's words weren't random. This was a strategic signal that bigger shifts may be coming in Malawi's political landscape. When a president calls out internal critics publicly, it usually hints at rising tensions behind closed doors. His statements touched on loyalty, betrayal, governance, and public perception, all wrapped in colorful metaphors. This moment was less about personality clashes and more about ideological positioning. He was drawing a line in the sand and inviting the nation to watch what happens when people decide to cross it. And speaking of crossing lines, let's talk about who these metaphors were actually targeting. Chakwera didn't name drop in this speech, but he didn't need to. People who follow Malawi's political scene immediately recognize the undertones. The comments seemed directed at certain opposition critics, frustrated allies, and even internal party voices who have grown louder recently. It was a subtle way of saying, yes, I see you, and yes, your moves are noted. The metaphors allowed him to hit hard without listing names, which is a political masterclass move. Everyone felt the weight of the message because everyone wondered if they were on the receiving end of that verbal banana boomerang. And if the targets were shaken, imagine how the audience reacted. Social media went wild within minutes. Clips circulated faster than a Monday morning rumor. Supporters applauded the boldness, critics dissected every metaphor like linguistics professors, and neutral observers simply dropped popcorn emojis. Inside political spaces, the reaction was even more intense. Some insiders reportedly felt exposed, others felt vindicated, and a few pretended not to have heard anything at all. Classic political survival mode. But one thing was clear. Chakwera's remarks created a buzz no one could ignore. His message reshaped conversations instantly. But beyond reactions and retweets, let's talk about why this affects everyday citizens. These remarks matter because they influence how people understand leadership strength, accountability, and the dynamics shaping their future. When a president speaks boldly, it affects trust, either building it or shaking it, depending on perceptions. Citizens watch how leaders handle dissent, how they respond to criticism, and how transparent they seem during internal conflict. Chakwera's tone signaled confidence, frustration, and urgency. And for everyday Malawians, that shapes expectations. Will this lead to better governance, political reshuffling, or more visible discipline? Those questions now hover in the national conversation. And with rising public interest comes the inevitable question, what happens next? Chakwera's remarks could signal major political ripples. Will internal critics lose influence? Will alliances shift behind the scenes? Will party restructuring follow? These statements didn't come out of nowhere. They usually precede action. Political analysts are watching for new coalitions, strategic removals, or bold policy moves meant to reassert authority. The situation is fluid, and as Malawi's political climate continues to heat up, these metaphors may age like prophecy. One thing is certain, leadership tensions are now front-page news. Which brings us to the final piece of this political puzzle. The next big signs will come from who speaks publicly, who stays silent, and who suddenly switches political tone. If new appointments appear, alliances shift, or critics quiet down, you'll know these remarks weren't just colorful storytelling, they were signals of strategic repositioning. This is political chess, not checkers, and Chakwera just moved a major piece. The real story is in what unfolds in the next days and weeks, not just what was said on the microphone. So, tell me, what do you think Chakwera's message was really aiming at? Drop your take in the comments and let's break down this drama together. Hit that like button if you love bold political storytelling, smash subscribe if you never want to miss another update from Global Pulse News, and ring that bell so you're always first in the conversation. Stay sharp, stay curious, and as always, we'll keep you ahead of the news.